It's Europe against the USA in a Ryder Cup style tournament. There's plenty of pride and passion on display. This is the 18th edition. Europe are out to make history. They're looking for a record-breaking 5th consecutive win. The Americans are out to stop them and reclaim this famous trophy. The stage is set, the players primed. The 18th edition of this tournament is underway and living up to expectations. For 17 years, the fate of the Weber Cup has been fought over. There's been no shortage of stories to tell, as some of the greatest names in the sport have battled it out, watched by an ever-growing audience. In the first 3 years, USA dominated. They looked unstoppable as they clocked up win after win. However, from 2003, Europe took control, winning their first title, and they went on to claim 3 Weber Cup victories. One of the closest tournaments was in 2006, when USA claimed back the title, winning 18-17, and the trend of 3 consecutive wins continued as Team USA went on to win in 2007 and 2008. In 2009 saw the debut of Martin Larsson to Team Europe. A new team player seemed to be the winning ingredient as they sealed their first victory for 4 years. And the Europeans celebrated success again in 2010 when they were captained by Osku Palermo. 2011 saw a comeback for USA, and in 2012 they also went on to smash Europe by an impressive 17-7 scoreline to defend their title. In 2013, Europe had a point to prove after their thrashing the previous year, and despite 2 perfect games from the Americans, Europe won back the trophy with a 17-14 victory. In the following year, the tournament went all the way. In a dramatic conclusion, Europe took the win 17-16, defending their title in front of a jubilant Barnsley crowd. The drama of 2014 was difficult to replicate 12 months later. Not that Europe cared. They made it 3 in a row, and a year later they added a 4th title. History really does beckon in the 18th edition of the Weber Cup. The pattern is clear for all to see. Periods of American domination followed by the Europeans. It's only stretched to 3 years at any one time. The Americans dominated the first 3 years. Europe came back in 2003. Team USA next. Things tightened up with Europe stringing together 2 wins, followed by a couple from the Americans. But for Team USA, the worrying trend started in 2013. 4 years of European domination. The question is, can Europe make it 5? The magic number here at the Weber Cup is 19. It's the first team to reach that target that claims the trophy. 1 point per match, with the matches consisting of singles, doubles and a baker. A team match involving all 8 players. As for the scoring, it's been simplified. The matches are played over 10 frames, there's no extra shot in the 10th. A strike is worth 30, and of course the magical score still remains the 300 game. The opening session saw the traditional Baker match, all 8 players involved, and it was the Americans who triumphed, and they did it in style, 1 strike short of a perfect game. Next up, Kyle Troop, another big performance, this time against European captain Dominic Barrett. The flag waving was put on hold for match 3. Europe struck back via Jesper Svensson, a player who has yet to lose a singles match. The sense of relief was short-lived as the American captain Sean Rash hit back with a 3-pin win over Martin Larsson. No matter how tight the margin, a point is a point, and the Americans have taken 3 of the first 4 on offer. Match 5 saw the Europeans field one of their most experienced players, Stuart Williams, but he failed to find the winning line. Marshall Kent did and ran out a comfortable winner. Kyle Troop was looking to really hammer home the advantage for the Americans, but he faced Jesper Svensson, a man who remarkably has never lost a singles match in the Weber. You get that record going, and European hopes alive. Confirmation of all the scores and the one remaining match, the captain's pick. Each team's captain picks the opponent, usually based on the form shown earlier in the session. The scores were a good indicator. Dominic Barrett looked out of sorts for the Europeans, and Sean Rash struggled in his match. So ironically, it's the two captains who face each other in the final match of this opening session.
Pressure on. It really would have been a bad situation had Jesper Svensson lost last time up, but remember how different things could have been in that match between Martin Larsson and Sean Rash. That was pretty much a flip of the coin which went in favour of the American. He won that by 3 pins. That's why they're 4-2 up. It could so easily be 3-all, but you know the psychology at work here, and in all seriousness, I think what Rash and the rest of the guys are thinking is, yes, Barrett has been sitting around for a couple of hours, and also Barrett has logged the lowest individual score that we've seen in this first session, a 232 when he was beaten by Kyle Troop. That's the real reason they've picked him.
Yeah, logic says that he's been sitting down for 2 hours. He didn't have the greatest game, although 230 is not a bad score. Rash, on the other hand, had a 267. So, yeah, maybe Rash was the odd pick as the captain's pick, but I can't see anything wrong with picking Dom Barrett to step up.
But I like that Barrett is prepared to just put his chin out there, if you like, and say, OK, they're going to pick me, I know that. I'm going to pick the opposing captain as well. He didn't go looking for, I mean, you know, the guy that might have been in the frame would have been Tackett, the debutant who bowled a 247 in losing to Jesper Svensson, but he's decided, no, I'm pretty sure they're going to pick me, so I'm going to pick the other skipper as well. That shows he's up for the fight, and you've got to be as well to be a success at this level.
It's the time of the tournament that they need a fight. I mean, they're 4-2 down. They want to make it 4-3. They certainly don't want to go in 5-2 tonight. So yeah, Dom's put his name and his reputation on the line.
Well, let's see if that steps up. A Colchester man, a mere baby at 32. All this talk about the old man, good grief. Well, there's a good start.
That's certainly woken the crowd up, or Svensson may have done that in the previous game, but that strike certainly got them going. A little bit light in the pocket, it's mixed them thin, it's made them spin, and he takes 30 points.
So Rash, who bowled a 267 in beating Larsson, has started off with a disaster. The 7-10, he affords himself a wry smile.
Difficult to sort of explain briefly, but the 4 pins trip round the 7 and the 6 pins trip round the 10, and they both laid in the channel, and they've got no work on them at all. So unfortunately, open frame.
But plenty of time to recover. It's worth setting a bit of context as well. We talked about Dominic Barrett posting the lowest score, which he did by some considerable margin as well, 15 pins to E.J. Tackett's 247, which was the second lowest, but as you most rightly pointed out, 232. That wasn't exactly a man that's struggling. It just goes to show the standard that is being set on this lane in this opening session. Oh, well, that's a strange one.
Well, you say strange one. It was flush in the pocket. It hit so hard, it drove through the 1-3, the 5 pin, and should have bounced on to that 9 pin. But the ball is so powerful, it's cut straight through the 5 and missed the 9.
Yeah, and you just don't see that very often.
You should have had the deflection from that 5 pin onto the 9, but so much power going in there. And that could be costly. Could be costly. It was a brilliant shot, but
nothing wrong with the shot.
We'll see what happens towards the end of the game.
Well, Rash has seen as bad a situation as there is on a bowling lane, the 7-10, but he's been able to get rid of that nice and early if he can start getting in the strike zone here, which he does. He is cooking.
Yeah, welcome to the game, Sean.
It's Dominic Barrett who's rising to the challenge, but only just. More to come after the break in the 18th edition of the Weber Cup. Welcome back to the Metrodome for the Weber Cup. It's the 7th match, the captain's pick, and both captains have opted for their opposite number. So in a match-up between Barrett and Rash, there's a lot at stake. Barrett with a slight edge, but little in it as we pick up the action with commentary from Cass Edwards and Nick Hawley.
Accuracy and repeatability are the two main things that these guys are looking for. Not necessarily playing against one another, but they're playing the lane. They want to defeat the oiling pattern.
Oh, that did a lot of work, didn't it? But look at the reaction on the back end. Barrett will be happy enough with that.
Yeah, managed to get that 9-pin out this time. Much better looking shot. Went wide, but it finished hard.
Yeah, it really did some damage coming out of that oil.
Yeah, this is the second game that they've played on this lane dressing, so they say it's playing on the burn, but it's only 2 games. And there's another 10 from Sean Rash, 2 strikes in a row. So although he had the open frame in the beginning first frame, he's only 10 pins adrift.
As you do in these situations, you focus on your own game. You might have half an eye on what the other guy's doing, but basically you're just ready for your next step up. Barrett has got another spare to deal with. Now, what happened there?
A bit hard and fast. It didn't quite finish as well as it should. It's left the 4 and the 8 pin, and it's light in the pocket as well. That's why he hasn't got the action over on that left-hand side. Just a straightforward spare, hard and straight.
What it does mean is that all that damage that was done by that early split from Sean Rash, that's been erased. If he strikes here, he takes the lead.
Yes, and he knows that as well. He's just been waiting for the opportunity. The opportunity arises now in the 4th frame.
And remember, he's already been in a dogfight. He came out of that battle with Martin Larsson by 3 pins. And he too has been affected by something.
Yeah, that's all right. He'll come back and regroup. Use the rosin bag just to dry his fingers off. And he'll come back and go through his pre-shot routine.
Psyching himself up. We saw Martin Larsson hit 9 after he had a distraction. No such damage there though for Rash. So he is for the first time in front in this point.
Yeah, 3 strikes in a row, 3 good-looking strikes in a row. Tom Barrett's gone strike spare, and that's the only difference.
So Barrett needs to get back on strike here. And does. Huge delight in the crowd, and this crowd is coming alive here.
A little puff of the cheeks there. I think Dom's realised that was not the best strike in the world. It's only just hit the head pin, and there's about 3 or 4 pins standing on the left-hand side over there, which has been annihilated by the head pin. But it gives him the opportunity to roll another strike and make a double.
Meanwhile, Rash will be just looking to keep whatever he's got. boiling away. And that is really hotting up nicely for him. How many is that in a row now, Cass?
Well, that's 4 in a row. He maintains his 2-pin lead at the halfway stage.
Well, it's the old story, isn't it? I mean, there is never a good time to get a split on an open frame, never. But if you're going to have one, just get it out of the way early. You've got time to regroup and recover.
Of course, the other thing I hadn't mentioned is that it was actually the Americans that picked this 44 feet oiling pattern at the start of the session. And the next session, it will be Dominic Barrett, the European captain, that picks the choice of the length of the lane conditioner.
Well, Barrett doing a good job here. He's regrouped, he shrugged off 1 or 2 disappointments and needed that strike. And what he needs now is for Rash to leave a pin standing. And he's done just that. Not quite the pocket hit he was hoping for either.
I mean, to all intents and purposes, it looked a great shot, didn't it? It was the angle that it came roaring back from the outside of the lane. Pretty much hit the pocket, but there was a deflection onto the 3 and the 6 pin, and it just didn't carry the 10.
He's taking it out there with the spare, though. But you saw his reaction there. That's given the initiative back to Barrett. But
well, it has. Sorry, Nick. Yeah, 2 strikes in a row for Barrett. He is in the lead, and he's going to lead off now in frame number 7.
Interesting though, Cass, going back to that last one. I didn't think that was a perfect pocket hit. You thought it was a pretty good pocket hit, but the net result is whatever. The 10 pin stood up.
Well, to the naked eye, at that sort of speed, it looks a reasonable pocket shot, but it's only when you see the slow motion replay that you think it's not quite perfect. And that wasn't quite perfect, but no, it certainly mixed them around, didn't it? And took 10, and that's 3 strikes in a row for Dom Barrett.
And that pretty much forces Sean Rash to step up and strike now. That was a really big strike, this, from Barrett.
It's pressure time now for Rash. He's got to play catch up.
He handled pressure well in his nail-biting win against Martin Larsson, and he didn't get away with it there. Don't tell me that was a good pocket hit.
Can you believe that? 7 pin.
Yeah, well, it didn't look a good pocket hit to me. Are we going to disagree again?
No, but it's a fraction high. That's why it's left. Oh gosh, no, the 4 pin stood up and went round that blooming 7 pin.
I mean, you can still get a strike off a hit that isn't perfect in the pocket, but that, a very expensive one, and a little rueful look at his teammates there as he goes back to his chair. And 4-1 was looking so good. 4-2 giving Europe hope, but now they can start thinking about a 4-3 if Barrett can keep his game together. There's still plenty of time for another twist in this particular tale.
20 pins the difference. Barrett working 3 strikes in a row. 5 strikes out of the 7 so far.
Boy, he makes that ball do some work off the back end, doesn't he? But it's effective. It's mighty effective, and this is Dom Barrett stepping up when Europe need him most.
Perfect strike, absolutely great. The ball went through, hit the 5 pin, bounced onto the 9 pin, and everything went. Pressure time on Sean Rash, the Team USA captain. Really needs 10 pins here.
Yeah, this is nothing else will do. That's it. That's it.
That's good night, Vienna, I'm afraid.
It really is. It's makeable, but even the spare is of no value at all.
Yeah, only just made the headpin. The headpin didn't even touch the 2 pin, so he's got the 2 and the 10 standing. As you said, it's a makeable spare. He has to hit that 2 pin left-hand side very lightly to bounce it across.
And he's not even going to get that.
And can only make 9 pins, unfortunately.
Well. It's funny, isn't it? It's been a session that the Europeans have been trailing and at times just hanging on for dear life, but they're going to go to bed tonight just 1 point adrift. And I think that would feel like a missed opportunity for the Americans, you know.
Absolutely, yeah. Dominic will be happy. Just one game behind, 1 pin behind.
Well, he's back on form, isn't he? The Colchester kid has stepped up.
Can he finish it off? 4 strikes in a row. Finish the game off with another one here.
He was out of the pocket as well, but just staying clean will be good enough here with Barrett.
Yeah, Spare will give him 236, and that's the maximum that Rash can make. So Dom might have to step up in the 10th frame and hit 1 pin, which I'm sure he'll do.
Assuming he hits this 1 pin, which he should.
We haven't seen any single pin misses so far
yet
in the tournament.
But you and I, you a lot more than me, have seen plenty down the years. It turns into a matchstick sometimes, that single pin. That's interesting. He made that ball work. He didn't go for his spare ball. He just stuck with what what's got him here.
He took the scenic route to this one.
Didn't he?
Really wide, just snapped it off his fingers. If that went straight, it would miss, but look at it hook back. He knows exactly what he's doing.
It was halfway to hull when that landed, when it started cutting back. And a strike to finish with for Sean Rash, but that was a big point, a huge point. Not officially in the books yet, but 1 pin will do. He'll probably get a few more than 1. He'll take 9. That was a captain's performance, and his teammates were there to let him know how much they appreciate what Dominic Barrett has just done for Team Europe. That paints a very different picture on this opening session. And they were on their knees at 4-1. As it is, Sean Rash can look at a couple of open frames and curse his misfortune, which has continued right into this 10th frame.
Yeah, 2 big open frames. One in the first frame, one in the 8th, and that's just about killed his game. Hello, here we go. It's a bowling lesson time from Harry Potter lookalike.
This is good to see. This is good to see. Come on, let's see. Oh, we might be here a while. No, we won't. In the gutter. In the gutter. Well, a nice little touch there from Sean Rash, but he did not bring his A game. Dom Barrett did. The USA 4, Europe 3. I wonder if we're going to be in for another one that's going to go right down to the wire.
A vital win for Europe and a crucial personal victory for Dominic Barrett. Europe just won adrift. Reaction and comment coming up after the break. Perfect timing from the European captain. Dominic Barrett was put under the spotlight by the Americans and he answered with a winning performance. He keeps his team within touching distance of the Americans at the end of session 1. Sean Rash may have been on the wrong end of that scoreline, but overall his side still lead. Both captains are now talking to Hannah Wilkes.
Well, the captain's picks certainly delivered. Both captains in action there. You tried to pick each other. A bit of mind games going on, it seemed. But Dom, you were one to come out on top. That'll show him for calling you old bones.
Well, I'm only the second youngest in our team with Martin and Stu. But no, I think he was right to pick me. I was sitting there the longest. I didn't take off my shoes, left my tape on. I kind of expected it. And for them as well, when we picked them, it was all those decisions are tough. They just are. And ever since it came into the Weber Cup maybe 4 or 5 years ago, every time we have a captain's pick, they're always the hardest ones.
Going into this match, Europe had a lot of work to do. Were you feeling the pressure ahead of the game?
Thank God we had Jesper. Otherwise, it would have been really bad. And I think actually, we're 4-3 down. We're kind of happy with that. We have a different idea of what patterns we're going to use tomorrow, and we get to pick that for the afternoon session, not the evening. So that's going to be a little bit different. But yeah, that could have been a lot worse.
I'll speak to you a little bit about oil patterns in a second. But 4-3 going into tomorrow. After how the score was a couple of games ago, does it feel like something of a victory?
Yeah, we were in a bit of a hole before. Before Jesper turned up and he performed twice really well. It's kind of why we had him bowling twice tonight from how we did last year. Nice that someone else get a point on the board as well.
Fantastic. And Sean, 4-3 victory this evening's session. You go into tomorrow on top. How pleased are you with your team's performance?
I'm very pleased. Over the last couple of years, it's been 6-1 Europe. So anytime you're ahead, it's they're chasing you. So it was a good match. Couple lucky hits, one way or the other. That it always evens out. It doesn't matter who's bowling. But a lot going on tomorrow, and we're gonna be here till Sunday night late.
You had a bit of an advantage with picking the all pattern for today. Do you feel like that might not be the case tomorrow when Europe gets a pick?
I don't think it matters. All these guys are great players, and you just got to match up, make good shots, and fill frames and see what happens.
Thanks very much, guys. We're all very much looking forward to tomorrow.
A new day and the second session. 7 more matches to be played. Dominic Barrett back in the firing line in the opener, while Marshall Kent has been asked to play 4 times. A bold strategy by the US, or perhaps a gamble. Europe have spread their team in terms of appearances. Time then to get match number 8 underway. Dominic Barrett against EJ Tackett. Commentary for this match comes from Cass Edwards and Nick Halling.
Let's hope this afternoon's session is as good as last night's session, because that really was enthralling. And we saw the Americans get off to that terrific start, 4-1 and really rolling, but then Jesper Svensson and then Dom Barrett pegging them back. Very interesting to hear the interview with Sean Rash, the skipper of Team USA, who is making just the 1 appearance in this afternoon's session. Didn't give too much away, but he said he's got a lower back strain. This is not the most physical of sports, let's be completely honest about that, but if you've got a bad back, it is very difficult to bowl to the best of your ability, and that could be a real big issue for the American skipper.
Certainly could, Nick. Yes, all that bending and leverage, pressure put on the lower back, and there's a long way to go in this marathon tournament, and if Sean's not 100%, it could make a vast difference.
EJ Tackett there on the right will be hoping for better fortune than he had first time up when he ran into Jesper Svensson, excuse me, I'm getting my Scandinavian names tangled up there. But Jesper was far too good for everybody that he faced yesterday, and EJ bowled a 247, which was just nowhere near good enough. And that really just says it all, that anybody that's bowling around a 240-250 on this lane last night was not going to be waltzing off with the point. Dom Barrett had mixed fortunes, losing to Kyle Troop in the first singles match, pretty badly as well, it has to be said, by 56 pins, and then coming back in the Battle of the Captains and getting past Sean Rash, 255-224, really stepping up when they needed him.
And a very high percentage strike percentage rate for all of these players. Scores have been really, really high, and as you say, a 240 could easily lose the game.
So the Indiana native gets off with a strike.
Yeah, playing deep inside and using the whole width of the lane and bringing that ball right back to the 1-3 pocket. Carrying all 10. We're playing on a freshly dressed lane, which has a lane conditioner on it, which is lane oil, and that goes down 40 feet down this lane before it breaks off, which leaves 20 feet of dry lane before the ball hooks up, and that is the hooking area, before the ball hooks up to the head pin and the 3-pin for the right-hander. And that's the snap area just there.
Yeah, Barrett certainly found it. Look, we heard Guy Kaminsky talking about that and talking about why it was Europe's favourite surface. It's significantly shorter than we saw last night. Why do the Europeans favour this particular lane pattern?
Well, they had great success on this lane pattern last year and the year before, and so they've come to it and hoping that they're going to probably pick up maybe 4, possibly 5 points in this session. As I say, it's a shorter pattern. It's 4 foot shorter than it was yesterday. And they picked up 3 points.
And he missed it badly. Well, he hasn't worked out the lane pattern there at all, has he? Dead on the head pin and getting a horrific split and a low pin count as well. Couldn't have been much worse, this, for EJ Tackett.
One would suspect that this is going to be an open frame. As you see, straight through the face of the number 1 pin. Leaves the 4, 6, 7, 9, 10, known as the Big 5. It's makeable, but it's extremely hard to get. You've got to be very accurate. But you can see on EJ's ball, look at that line of oil around the ball. And he gave it a good shot, but only 3, and unfortunately it's an open frame.
So the first error comes from the American, who leaves an open frame.
Well, the thing is, the ball just snapped up so quickly in that last 20 feet. As the game goes on, some oil will be pushed down into that 20-foot area, and the reaction of the ball may be slightly different. But first off, early doors, he got an overreaction.
All the players have had a chance to practice on this lane, so they can work out the nuances and subtleties of it.
And the other thing, Nick, about this this lane pattern is it's a 4-to-1 ratio, meaning in the centre of the lanes there's 4 times as much oil in the middle of the lane as there is to the right and the left-hand side. It tapers away either side. So just a 9 for Dom Barrett, leaves the 4 pin standing. If he spares this, it will be 10 pins for the spare and 9 for the ball on his first shot, which will make 19 pins.
Dom only just made the pocket there. We saw EJ badly miss the pocket, so let's see what kind of an adjustment Tackett will make here, and whether indeed Barrett will need to make a small adjustment next time he steps up as well.
Well, it may well be that he has to make that adjustment, because as I say, the back end of the lane, the last 20 foot is very dry at this moment. As more bowling balls go down the lane, as I said, the oil will transition down towards the pins, and there'll be a certain different reaction for the players, and they have to keep an eye on that. So they could be changing their line almost frame by frame.
Well, once again, not quite the pocket hit, but not quite the mess left at the end of it.
Well, it was certainly a better shot, and it was closer to actually being in the 1-3 pocket. Again, it's just finished high on that hairpin. It's left to what they call the fast 8. It's the 4 and the 7 on the left-hand side. And you can see he's quite upset about leaving that. It can only be a spare.
What he's got to make sure of is making that spare as well, because, and again, you talked about the oil on the ball. You can see a streak of it there. He's got to make sure of this, and does. But yeah, these balls picking up a lot of oil. We saw Jesper Svensson last night really taking his time to just get that oil cleared off the ball.
Yes, ideally they should wipe the ball clean every time with a towel, but if you're lined up and the ball's moving in exactly as you want it, just don't knock it. Just leave it.
He's back in the pocket there, and that's the result. Back on strike for the Colchester man.
Barrett picking up where he left off from session 1, ahead of the USA. But plenty more to come in this match after the break. Welcome back to the Weber Cup here at the Metrodome. Dominic Barrett is putting in a captain's performance for Europe. He's hoping to level the overall score, but first he has to overcome EJ Tackett of the USA. He leads by a narrow margin as we rejoin the action with commentary from Cass Edwards and Nick Hawley.
Tackett is the 2016 PBA World Champion and Player of the Year for that year. And earlier this year, he won the PBA Tournament of Champions. So we are looking at a world absolutely class player, and he's come back with a strike.
A lot of people are saying, Cass, that this is the current form horse of the 8 players that we've got here.
Well, he's up for Player of the Year again this year, which could be 2 years in a row. That doesn't happen very often. He's had some super wins throughout the season. There's a few more tournaments to go back in the States before the end of the year, and all these guys will be going out there. All 8 players played the American Tour, and then they'll be hoping to be home in time for Christmas.
Barrett doubles up, so that maintains his healthy advantage, and it puts the pressure now on Tackett, who's got to try and stay clean. He's got to put 5 or 6 together, you'd think, to get any kind of chance.
Well, not necessarily Tackett getting 5 or 6 in a row. If Dom can do that exactly, he's got the lead and he'll remain in the lead.
Keep it, yeah.
It's up to Dom to possibly give it away. Not that we'd want him to see him do that.
Tackett's just got to stay. Oh, went very wide there. It took a very wide angle of attack, but it really did cut in and take those pins out.
Absolutely fantastic looking shot. He got outside to the real outside boards of the lane. You watch how wide this is. Outside that down lane marker, and it comes roaring back when it gets into that dry area. He's got so much rotation on the ball, and he's happy with that now. Can he maintain that shot and repeat it time after time?
Yeah, he'll want to. I mean, that was a perfect pocket hit. Just smashed the rack. Barrett. Ooh, drifted out of the pocket again, and again has left the single pin.
A totally different line from Dominic Barrett, playing a lot straighter down the lane, not looking for so much hook, whereas EJ was almost sort of coast to coast. See how straight this is. It just turns up at the end nicely. Unfortunately, a little high on the head pin. Leaves that 4-pin standing on its own, so it can only be a spare, which will be worth 19. Hard and straight ball, no room for error.
And a strike here from Tackett will put the American within touching distance.
Yeah, the difference moves to 12 pins with Tackett working 2 strikes in a row.
Yeah, it's finally balanced, this one, as we go into the second half. Frame 6. That again, he's taking that very, very wide line that produced such a result from him the previous frame.
Well, he's all revs, isn't he? Look at the rotation on that ball. It comes absolutely roaring back. Unfortunately, again, it's not quite in the pocket. It's high on the head pin. Leaves one standing. It's all very well having these high revolution bowling balls hooking all over the place, but if you don't make the pocket properly, you are not going to carry 10 pins.
Should be a formality, and indeed is, but having pulled to within touching distance, Tackett knows that a strike here from Barrett, and he's back chasing again.
An interesting little stat, Nick, after yesterday's session of 7 games, there was only 14 pins difference between the 2 teams.
It's amazing.
And the averages were extremely high as well. Europe averaged 259 for their 7 games, and USA 261 for their 7 games of singles. So it's all very, very tight, including the 4-3 lead that the USA have at this particular time.
Well, if Barrett can tack a couple more on like that, we'll be level at 4-all. That's exactly what Barrett needed, having seen his opponent get a spare. This to restore the 20+ pin advantage, and a flawless strike.
Yes, as you say, Dominic saw that EJ had the spare and he just went and blasted a strike, which is what you're going to have to do, and he'll try and double up on that in frame 7.
And it puts the pressure on Tackett, who's been a bit up and down. He's had a double, he's had an open frame, he's had a couple of spares, and he's right on the head pin again. He's just not found a consistent line at all, and I think, barring a miraculous spare shot here, that's pretty much this match done and dusted right there, and he's only got himself to blame. He's just not found a consistent pocket hit.
Yeah, straight through the head pin. He's left the 3 and the 6 and the 4 and the 7. It is a makeable spare, but it's a low count to start with. It's a difficult spare to pick up, and the last thing he needs now is an open frame, because you can bet your life that Dom Barrett was going to step up and shoot another strike, and that will be the game over, I think.
Well, just look at his maximum, it's 241, but that's if he makes this spare, which he really needs, and no, he's gone for it. But that's going to drop even lower now, 232, so the slender lead in 2 frames has become a yawning chasm now. And Tackett's misery in singles play is continuing here, beaten by Jesper Svensson last night. He's run into an informed Dom Barrett here, and only a collapse by the Team Europe captain will allow the American to get back into this, you would think.
Yes, he's been a little bit inconsistent on the line that he's been playing. He's got the ball out right to the right-hand side of the lane and brought it back for a split. That time he wasn't in the same area, and again he's had a split. And 2 open frames in a match that's going to be this high scoring, or have matches that are this high scoring at the moment, certainly not going to pick up a point. So Dom Barrett looking for a strike here, and probably the next point for Europe, to square the match up at 4 each.
Well, that'll do it. He can spare out from here, Barrett, comfortably. Probably even afford himself an open frame with a lead like this, but leaving nothing to chance. And as Guy Kaminsky was saying downstairs, this lane has been this lane condition has been so good for Europe down the years. And as you said it, Cass, they'll be looking for ideally 4, maybe even 5 victories in this afternoon session of 7. Well, they're certainly on course for the first one, and Tackett trying to avoid dropping into the 220s here. Now that was much better. It's come far too late, of course.
Well, it was much straighter, wasn't it? Totally had to change his line. He had nothing going for him at all, and he almost played the Dom Barrett line. Straighter down the lane, just a little bit of hook at the end, right in the 1-3 pocket, and carries 10. And he wishes he'd started earlier on that line, I'm sure.
That'll seal it. That is a turkey for Dom Barrett, and from being 4-1 down at one point, the Europeans are going to level this Weber Cup up 4 apiece at the start of this Saturday afternoon session.
Secures a 42-pin lead with 2 frames to go. Pretty much done and dusted.
Interesting that Barrett is really starting to kick it up to high gear. His first singles match was a 232, his second was a 255. He's going to be higher than that, and a 10-pin not going. Tackett, in contrast here, is now posting the lowest individual score that we've seen at this year's Weber Cup.
I'm sure he'll be pleased that you mentioned that, Nick.
Well, it's just the contrast, isn't it, that Barrett is now punching it up, going through the gears, whereas Tackett, who didn't bowl badly in his first defeat at 247, is not shabby, but he's only just made that 10, you know, and he's really struggled here today, and he's up next in doubles as well with Kyle Troop, so he needs to shrug this off pretty quickly.
You're quite right, yes, it's going to be the same lane dressing. He certainly has to find a line.
Barrett is also up next in doubles with Jesper Svensson, and he'll want to carry on where he's left off here. So this has been a very, very strong second half from the European skipper.
Yep, a potential 278 if he can strike one more. He's definitely got the crowd in his pocket.
Well, that's the way he would have wanted to finish, but he won't be bragging about a 221 anytime soon.
Yeah, but unfortunate, 2 massive open frames there, kept the scores down. Only 5 strikes for EJ, and Dom is really working the crowd now. A bit of showboating. Changes the line totally, but that's just a learning curve for the next game. Spare here will give him 267. Now comes the shiny hard ball. It will go hard and straight for the single pin spare.
And that'll do it. Comfortable. Very comfortable for Dom Barrett. 267 plays 221. A 46-pin victory that was never really in any doubt once EJ Tackett left that open frame. 4-1 it was, 4-4 it is.
A winning start for Europe in session 2, a vital point in the overall contest as it levels the scores. After the opening session, Team USA threatened to run away with it, but Europe, led by Barrett and Svensson, pulled their team back into it. And it's Barrett who's now talking to Hannah Wilkes.
Well, Dom, that's the start you wanted this afternoon's session. Is the oil pattern playing the way you hoped it would?
You know, oil patterns are just kind of what they are. They play different every day, every tournament, every lane plays different. I think it's just this atmosphere, this setting, more than anything else. It's this lane, not the pattern. I think that's what we rise to as the European team, and, you know, couldn't ask for a better start.
You're up next in the doubles. Are you hoping to continue your run of wins and get another point on the board for Europe?
Yeah, the way the sort of schedule works, we always want to follow up. You know, if you've been on the lane one game, you want to play at least 2. So that's what we've done most of the session. So Jesper's going to play the singles after that, so he's up next with me.
Best of luck.
Thank you.
Barrett clear about his tactics for this session, and coming next, the first test of those tactics as he teams up with Jesper Svensson to take on EJ Tackett and Kyle Troop. That's followed by Svensson in a singles match against Troop. Both matches feature in our next show. Europe back on level terms with Team USA in an intriguing edition of the Weber Cup that promises much, and so far it has delivered.